Welcome to the Right Space podcast, the place where creatives, entrepreneurs, and dreamers can breathe, dream, create, and inspire. Today we have a lovely guest here for you, and he is none other than my Insta friend, Giovanni Clinkett. He's a self-professed super cool dad and husband. He's the founder of Clinkett Design, which he's been running for the past 5 years. And yeah, he's also an entrepreneur who helps other entrepreneurs build brands that connect. And I think him and I have that in common because that's kind of what I try to do too. He's a proud Scorpio, just like another famous Scorpio. And yeah, he's a graduate from the University of Arts in London and a graduate from Chelsea College of Art and Design. Please, right space listeners and watchers, help me welcome Giovanni Tlingit to the space.
You did your
Ins-
research.
yeah,
Went in. You went,
I did. So, how are you today?
oh, I'm well. Truly blessed.
You're blessed.
It's, but it's all good. Life is good.
Could you speak a little louder? I'm having a bit of
You hear me
trouble
now?
hearing you.
How about now?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Oh.
cool. So, yeah, like I know we've been kind of talking on Instagram for about a year now. And I remember when we first started engaging, I can't remember whose comments we kind of met in, but you were like, so you were quite starting out on your Instagram journey and creating content. And I know that you were adamant about creating not just massive followers, but actually going deep and creating relationships with the people you're interacting with. And that kind of really, really struck me. Like it stood out beyond all the other things. And I just wanted to know, like, why was that so important to you? And is it something that you're still able to maintain a year later?
I'm going to maintain that 20 years later because that's just the way I am and that's how I see the world. Like, I don't have the obsession that I find that many people have with numbers. Like, to me, a connection with a person is much more important than 1,000 followers that don't connect.
Mm.
Do you see what I mean? In terms of, I'm about the people. So I'm there to connect with people. I'm there to network. I'm there to help people where I can. I've hired a lot of people through Instagram as well. So you make connections there and then you get people to come in to help you out. I've got some work from there too. But it's down to it's quality over quantity,
Mm.
you know, and I find that it's quite unfortunate that there is that obsession with numbers because a lot of people see numbers as authority, they see numbers as expertise, they see numbers as validation, which is like the biggest one. You know, like like look at them, they've got 10,000 followers and I only have 500. Oh my gosh, they're more important than me. No, you know, like there are people that have got massive followings, but it's unsustainable. In my view, you know, like you can't. It's very difficult for you to be able to stay connected genuinely to 10,000 people. I don't know anyone that can manage that.
Yeah, it is.
So, like have like a connection with someone, and this is the thing. It's like to me, I don't look at numbers in that sense. Like to me, irrespective, like I've got people who I follow that have got 200 followers. They've
Mm.
got 100. I've got people that I follow that have got 50,000 followers. You know, but and then the unfortunate thing is that there are a lot of people that will follow other people because of their numbers, right? And what they're not seeing is the person. They're seeing this facade, like numbers on a screen. It's almost like that whole thing of like, oh, that person's wearing a suit, that person's got a Rolex, that person's driving a BMW. So therefore, that person must be important. versus the person who's going around in blue jeans riding a bicycle. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's that perception that we put onto people, and it happens as well online, which is unfortunate. Like, you've got people that will go onto Instagram, will look at somebody like me. I don't even know how many. I've got less than 2,000. I don't know how many I've got right now. I've got less than 2,000 followers. They might look at me versus like wanting to work within the branding space. They might look at me with my sub 2,000 followers and go look at somebody else that's got 15,000 followers. In their head, that person with the 15,000 is a so-called expert. I've got 17 years experience behind my belt. Person could have 2 years experience behind their belt, but yet they've spent 6+ hours a day building Instagram, doing the growth strategies that both myself and you know how to do. You see what I'm saying? But it's numbers is a funny thing, man. I think Instagram should just remove follower numbers, because it's
really,
it's fine. Yeah. Like, what does it really mean? You know, like, say for example, you've got 10,000 followers, but yet you've just started in your field, right? You've had one client, yeah, versus who's got 200 followers, who's been doing it for 10 years. Who will you go for to help you in your?
Who's been doing it for 10 years. And I get what you're saying, that like there sometimes there's such a push to kind of exhaust yourself building a large following, and then the business kind of goes to the side. And like something that I see with a lot of people in my community is that like there's this struggle to feed the algorithm and feed the beast, and kind of create content consistently, versus spending time on your business, doing the actual work with the actual client. And it's like, what is more important? Would you rather have like you said, would you rather have like 10,000 followers with like one client? Well, suppose if that client's like Nike or something.
My experience answers that question. Like, I got serious on Instagram last year, right? Because of the pandemic. Prior to that, I'd post like once every 3 months. Right? I had it was like I'd literally spend 2 minutes a day, if that. Right? Why? Because I was in the real world, quote unquote, building businesses, building a business. Right? So I never found the need to go on, and I do understand the importance of being on Instagram and having a social media platform. There is an important element of that, and I've done a post similar, I think it was yesterday or the day before, where I'm talking about you need to focus on your business, focus on yourself, focus on your personal development, versus spending. There are people that I know, and I've spoke to these people, that spend over 6 hours a day.
How is that even a thing?
Doing all sorts of things. I'm looking like, spend that on personal development, and you'll get 10 times more, 10 times further ahead than you will getting 10,000 followers. Do you see what I mean? And my like how do I say it? My brand message, if you want to call it that, hasn't changed from day one of the pandemic and me starting that account and starting to post that account. That hasn't changed today. Like, I don't see the value in putting 6 hours on Instagram. I just don't. Like, to me, I'm not interested in getting big. It'd be nice, but I'm not.
Yeah.
But if that's what people want, then you've got to put the time in. But I think that, put the time in for build your customer service skills, build your communication skills, build your brand, build your sales funnels, build everything else, right? That's going to function as a business. And then if you've got spare time, go and build your Instagram.
Like, it's one part of your bigger, it's one part of your business. It's not just even like 10% of your business. It's a specific section. Like, it's part of your marketing strategy.
It's important. like everything I've just said sounds as if I'm anti social media, which I'm not, because I understand the important element, but I also understand that build a business first, right? Like my business was built with zero social media, right? You can go on my page, you can see the kind of clients that I've worked for. None of that was done with even having a website.
How did you do that?
Word of mouth, and that was by normal marketing, like being out there in the real world, networking, meeting people, getting referred, etc. So I've done it the so-called old school way, right? And that's how my reputation was built, and that's how I went from one client to the next, to the next, to the next, right? So in terms of like there's a lot of people, yeah, it depends on what you're doing. It depends on your niche, actually. If it benefits the guys that have a business or a product or a service that involves teaching people how to build Instagram.
Yeah.
Makes sense for them to spend 6 hours a day. Makes sense, right? But for them to turn around and tell everyone to go spend 6 hours a day, I don't believe in that. I don't think that's right. You know, people should. There's a lot, like you're in business, you know, there's a lot that you need to do. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and you want to add 6 hours of your day. Who even has that? 6 hours in a day to be clicking and engaging and doing all sorts. Like, who has that? I don't.
No, I definitely like agree with you. It's something that I'm sharing with clients who go through my content strategy. Like seeing Instagram and seeing social media as just a small part of your marketing strategy. And even in that, it shouldn't be your only marketing strategy.
Social media is a touch point. That's what it is.
It is a touch point, and it's like a digital door to door. Like some people have done it for years just for fun. And being online gives you just another way to engage with people. And that's something that I don't know, that I'm trying to advocate for and trying to stay more in kind of the content that I'm creating moving forward. And yeah, like I definitely I'm with you. Like no one has 6 hours to spend on creating that content, let alone like engaging with people. And yeah, like a lot of if you think of small business owners and solopreneurs and people are getting started, like you're wearing like 50 hats. Like you're the marketer, you're the salesperson, you're the trainer, you're the HR department, you're all of that. And it's like something's gotta give somewhere. How would you suggest like a first time employer or a first time business owner or a new business owner um, how would you suggest they kind of split their time, especially if they're juggling so many different roles?
I would say number one is to have clarity, right? Spend time gaining clarity in terms of like what your business goals are and what you're trying to achieve, who you're speaking to, where these people are. Like once you have that clarity, you're gonna be more productive because you will have a laser focus. So you won't be like just playing, going this direction, that direction. So you'll know that if I achieve X, it's going to get me Y result, and that Y result is going to push me towards the ultimate. So it's about just doing those little actions before you even go out and start posting on Instagram and start doing all these other things, is be clear on who you're going to speak to, what message you want to communicate, what you want to be able to achieve. Having that clarity and knowing where you want to get to. If that involves, and sometimes that does involve having 10,000 followers because of that idea of authority. So then you can put time away so that then it becomes a priority for you to spend a little bit more time than a normal Joe Blogs would. You see what I'm saying? Because then you've got a specific outcome. But versus rather than just I want 10,000 followers because it's going to make me feel good. That's where it's wrong. But if you need 10,000 followers because it's going to help your business in some way, absolutely go and do it. You know, but before you do it, you need to be clear and understand that the workload that it's going to take to get 10,000 followers is no joke. You know, and do how much money you're going to invest in. You can do it by paying. You know, you can get 10,000 followers by you know, not doing it the so-called organic way. Do it with ads. It will get you there faster. You know, there's that. You know, but I think just gain clarity. Understand that building a business, building a brand is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And that's where I find a lot of people stumble, where they want a certain result after a year. Do you see what I mean? You've got to be 5 years plus ahead. So if you've got a 5-year plan, what happens within the next 3 months is small potatoes in comparison to where you're going to get to. So you're able to then have a mindset that, okay, this didn't work out so well, but I still got time to fix it because I still got another 5 years ahead.
Yeah.
By making that kind of mindset shift. Something else I would add is not to compare yourself with anyone, because everyone is on running their own race. Everyone, and what you'll find as well is there's a lot of people that will come onto platforms such as Instagram and like platforms that are visible, right, to other people. And when what we're seeing is their success stories of like, oh, I got to whatever $10,000 a month, right? Earning $10,000 a month in 6 months, right? But what they're not telling you is the transferable skills they've been building for years that has been able to, you see that they've been able to apply to whatever they're doing today, that has brought about that result. So if you want to earn $10,000 a month, there's certain things that you need to be working on. You see what I'm saying? You need to know how to sell. You need to know how to communicate. You need to know how to build funnels. There's various things. So all of that education doesn't happen in 6 months. That's more or less what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. It definitely, like those 3 points, like having clarity, knowing that it's not a marathon, and then just like working on those other skills. Like that is at the end of the day, like the thing that's gonna give you that boost. Because even if, like, let's say you're selling, like you sell design, brand design, uh, like your skill, the thing you went to school for is one thing, but there are all these other things that actually need to fill in the gap, like being able to read a room, being able to tell, like if someone in a sales call is objecting, or if they're kind of being put off but they don't really want to say it, like those little nuances and things like that, those aren't necessarily things that you get taught in school, or that you get taught in the books. Well, there are books that teach you about these things, but like it's not just paper knowledge. Like it's stuff that you have to put in practice, and stuff that you have to constantly develop all your other skill sets. I like this quote that, like, the thing Christo said in one video, where he's like, you can sell what you do, I can sell what the world does. And that is remarkable, because he doesn't just think about like his skills as a designer. That's just one thing that he does. And just like you, like design is one thing that you do, writing is one thing that I do, but it takes a whole person to run a business, not just a designer or whatever. And most of the time, you don't even do the fulfillment anyway. Like you do all these other things. So yeah, that was very useful and
Even
helpful.
outsourcing, like when you find a need to outsource, right? Most people look at that as a linear thing. Like you've got, okay, I've got this job, I need to pay this person to do that job. It's not as simple as that,
Yeah.
right? You need to have interview skills, right? Because you need to find the right person to do the job. Your intuition needs to be on point, right? You need to have an overview of the skills that they need to bring to the table. So for you to go look for a specific person, you need to have an understanding of what they need to do, right? So you're already in that role. So there's multiple roles that or skill sets that go into something as simple as hiring someone or the right person. You can go hire someone and they mess up, but to hire the right person, there's a certain skill set to that, and then you have to manage them at some stage. You have to be able to have the communication skill to approach them, and if they've not hit the mark, then you need to communicate that to them. A lot of people find that difficult, and then that's another skill set that you need to build. If one of your customer complains, how are you going to deal with it? That's another skill set.
And how's your team going to deal with it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is the thing, people are always too much in a rush to get things done. It takes time. This stuff takes time, man. Like my first client was in 2004, right? So people look at me and turn around and say, oh, how can you create a carousel in 15-20 minutes? I've been doing it for years, right? Not the carousels, but I've been doing what I do for years. So it's so easy, and that skill comes from being in the trenches. It comes from putting in the work. You see what I mean? So it's not about how long, it's about the experience that you've pulled up. Being able to do presentations, that's a key point within my space. You have to be able to present.
Something that I did want to touch on, you are in the branding space. You are a brand designer. Firstly, what is a brand designer? And then why is branding important?
Right. Branding is about communication and connection. Right? So communication in the form of the job of a brand is to serve and appeal to their target audience. Right? So that's the one key. So you as a brand, you need to identify who your target audience is. Right? And you've got to be very specific, because your positioning strategy in terms of branding is one of the most important things that there is. And people will assume, like a lot of people make the mistake in thinking, oh, my logo is my brand, my website is my brand, my colors are my brand. All of that makes part of your visual identity, which then makes part of your brand identity, which is only still 10% of your brand. You see what I'm saying? So the 90% of your brand, and I understand why people think that, because the visual identity or the brand identity is what people see. Right? So the 90% of your brand that people don't see, like the foundation, the DNA of your actual brand, and the thing that's going to get Robyn to be interested in X, the thing that's going to get Sam interested in buying Coca-Cola versus buying Pepsi, right? That's not because of the colors, right? That's not because there's a lot of like foundational work that goes into building that relationship between the brand and the client. You see, so to answer your question, what is branding? Branding is about connection. Connecting the brand to the audience. That's as simple as it gets.
And why is that important?
Because, like, let's say, for example, if you are a butcher's, right? You're selling chicken, you're selling meat, you're selling pork, right? You walk into a vegan community and you try and sell your stuff.
That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And why? Because you haven't identified your target audience. So before you even got in your van and packed up your pork sausages to go and sell it to these vegan people, right? You should have already known, okay, that's not my target audience, right? So your branding is literally that. So you need to know who you're talking to before you go and sell them the service, because what happens is you're trying to sell them on something. Your product might be great, might be the best pork sausages in the world, right? But if it's not to the person who's going to buy your pork sausages, it's a waste of time. So going back to what we were talking about earlier, is clarity and getting the right communication, the right messaging to appeal to that person that would be interested in buying your service or your product.
So getting crystal clear on the messaging and the audience that
I
truly
tell
need your
my
product.
clients, I tell my clients this all the time. Spend more time building your foundation than you do building your house. And it's hard, like it's something that is, even for me, like when I first started my career, that's how I got educated. That's how I got taught. Like, you must design the best website, you must design the best logo, the best colors, the best visual identity. So we're taught to think that is what the brand is, right? So you put so much effort and so much focus on the visuals, right? But copywriting comes into branding, right? Copywriting is a massive. Copywriting is just as, I'd say, even as important as the logo, right? So copywriting is such an important skill set for anyone within this space to take on and to understand and to practice. You know, this is why I want to get on a call with you, because I want you to teach me more. You know what I mean? Because like copywriting is where it's at.
Mm-hmm. I was having a conversation on, I think on LinkedIn, talking about like how, well, someone was asking why copywriters don't get paid that much or don't get valued as much. And I was like talking to them about like how like there's such an integration between copy and brand and design and like graphic design, because like you can have a poster and stuff like that, but or an ad, but if the messaging of that ad is wrong or the words in that ad aren't like just the right ones, then like it's gonna miss. And you can have the best copy in the world, like you can have the best tagline or headline in the world, but if the visuals are like offensive or they're off or they're just like not, like it's a butcher in a vegan community, then that's what's gonna happen. It's gonna flop. But like you need to have the two of them kind of connecting and having those people practicing. Like for me as a writer, thinking like designers, thinking um, like learning about typography and stuff like that, and ways of making the words on the page do things. Like that's what I like about your Instagram. Like lately you've been playing around with like the way the words fit in the page and stuff like that, which is kind of that cool segue. I think I lost my train of thought. The point was though that we have a lot to learn from one another. Writers from designers and designers from writers, because together like we see the world different. Like I see the world in colors and fields and the way the wind moves and stuff like that. And you see the world differently. And so like I can teach you how to see the world a little bit more like I do. And you can teach me how to see the world like a design from a design perspective. Because like I have no concept of that. And in that way, like you get to learn more and you get to grow more, and you give more to your clients by doing that. Like when you broaden your own skill set, you're able to give your clients a better product, and you're able to move, like if you have an agency, you're able to move that agency up a level by maybe introducing new products or training your staff or anything like that. Yeah.
No, it's true. You're so right. You're so right. It's about, like, there's no one thing that is it. You know, there's so many different elements. You know, even just within the design space, like it's a person will think, okay, you've designed a flyer or a poster or whatever, an ad campaign, right? Some people will look at that and think, you know, the logo is the most important, or the subject in there the most important, or no, there's so much more. Like even things like elements like the texture, the space, the negative space that you put around something is going to affect how you read it, right? And it's also gonna determine where you look at first. Like there's little nuances that you can put in design, right? Which is just like copywriting, where you can use words in a certain way that will communicate X versus Y.
Yeah. So elicit like a certain emotion from people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
get
it's
people
about,
emotional.
yeah, like even though if you look at my Instagram, and I think I created a post about this, I can't remember when, where I was talking about breaking rules. Like for you to be able to break design rules, you need to understand them first, right? So like you'll see posts of mine that have got like 5 different typefaces or fonts, right? That's like the cardinal sin in design. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're going to design something, stick to 2 or 3 max.
Yeah.
Don't put 5, 6 different fonts. This is what they teach you in school.
Don't mix this with that.
Right. But for you to be able to do that, you need to understand the foundation. You need to, going back to what you're talking about, have that clarity, build that foundation. Once your foundation is strong, you can put anything on top of it and it's going and it'll work. You know, so yeah, I think people rush too much. I think that's what makes people stumble a lot. You know, they're trying to get, yeah. Even writing, like I don't know if it comes across or not. That's up to the audience to know. But I write how I speak.
You do.
Right. You see, so if someone's now watching this, they've seen my post, but they've never heard me speak. It's the same tone.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas
and going the title of this thing is about building authenticity within the brand. Right. The brand is me. I am the brand. Right. So how I speak is the same way I'm going to write. Right. How I think differently is how it's going to come across in my designs. Right. So like if you look at the carousel community, for example, like they all start a lot of them, some amazing creators in there, right? But then everyone seems to follow a certain structure. If you look at my post versus theirs, you will notice that they're very different. Very, very different. I've never seen anyone do what I do.
What makes it different?
The playing around with the elements. Like, have you seen anyone playing around with the typography as I do?
I have, but they're also like, I think they're also in the vein of they're taking the structure of a carousel and then they're painting on it and they're playing on it.
And this is the thing, is like it's an opportunity for you to show your personality. And that is my personality. I'm always against the grain. I'll look at something, study it or whatever, learn from it, and then I'll try and work out how I can do it differently. That's how I am in life in general. So my posts are a representation of that.
And that forms part of the brand.
It's part of my brand. My friend. When I was a kind of teenager, right, I was into modifying cars. Right, so it wasn't good enough for me to go into a showroom and buy a car. Right, but the designers created a product, right, that is good enough. But I still wanted to take that good enough product and make it my own. So I would change the wheels, I would change the bumper, I would change the lights, I would change the seats, I would change whatever to make it my own. So I've always done that. I used to do that with clothes. Like I used to buy clothes and take out something and put something else in it.
Like experimenting and making it. Taking the thing that's there, experimenting and making it your own. So we've talked a lot during this episode. We've covered a lot. Talked about charity, talked about business, social media. What would you say to someone who is just starting out? Let's say they're brand new, their first time business owner. I want to distinguish that now. Recently, I've been using that way more than, like, instead of talking about a small business owner, because you can have a small business owner who's been in business for like 10 years. It's just their business is like less than 10 employees. Or they're like whatever. And then you can have someone who's like brand new. And there's kind of a distinction between those two. Sorry, I'm just getting on a, like, that's just like a thing that I've been thinking about lately. So what would you say to a first-time business owner? They're overwhelmed, and they're trying to figure out their own voice, their brand identity, and they're trying to kind of work on those fundamentals. What are 3 things that you would advise them that they can go do over the next 7 days, that'll help them build that foundation in a sustainable way?
Okay. Okay. Like, have you ever heard of? Okay, when you're trying to figure out who you are as a person, right? Forget brand for now. But when you're trying to figure out who you are as a person, one of the best ways is to look at people that you admire, right? And within those and look at what traits these people have. And so there's a reason why you admire these people, right? They might be forthright, they might be confident, they might be, unashamedly themselves, authentic. They might be kind, they might be whatever the trait, right? We generally, like, if you watch movies as well, like, there's characters that you naturally lean towards, right? So we could both watch the same film. You're going to fall in love with one character, I'm going to fall in love with another character because I see myself in them and you see yourself in them, right? So for a new person, do that exercise. Look at businesses, look at brands, look at people, personalities that you admire, right? And then try and identify what these things are that you admire from these people, right? So it could be like the rebel nature of Richard Branson, right? And Virgin. Like, Virgin is a famous rebel brand, right? This guy just does things outside the box, right? Same with Steve Jobs and a few others, right? A lot of people will look at that and they admire. They'll think, oh, I'm falling in love with the logo. No, they're not falling in love with the logo. They're falling in love with that core element of that brand. The fact that this brand is just not afraid to go into a room and wear a pink hat with like a little butterfly coming out of it. And people look at these things and think, oh my gosh, I wish I had, the courage to do that. But they do. So it's about, like, identify who, like, who you are, because that is who your brand is. Whether you're building your personal brand or your business brand, infuse yourself in it. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes complete sense. And I think that's really good advice, like starting with knowing who you are or knowing what your company is, or you want your company to be known as.
Yeah, because once you know who you are, and more importantly, who you're trying to help, right? Those 2 things, and it's just about just making that connection, right? So I would even recommend that new person to just Google or Bing or whatever search engine they use, archetypes, like brand archetypes. So within brand archetypes, they kind of break down like certain personality traits, certain characteristics, right? So like, you'll notice that each of us will have one or 2 of them. So you've got the heroes, the caregivers, you've got the rebels. There's various archetypes that. So once you've read through these, you're going to start like noticing, hold on, I lean more towards this one than that one. And just look at those and start infusing those things within your branding, because that's a good way to communicate out to the world. Once you've got like that, and then you kind of building your foundation with then the science behind it, which is the archetypes and the neuroscience and all this other stuff and the psychology. And then so you add all of that together, infuse it in a way, and then take that to the world. But it's a long process. Like you said, what did you say, a week?
Yeah, 7 days. Something they can do practically in the next 7 days to take them from
look,
where they are
practically
to
that.
like a
Look at who
next
you are.
step.
Yeah. Look at who you are. Get clear on who you are. Get clear on who you're trying to communicate to. Right, and then start making a connection between both of them. That's branding. That's what it is. But normally it will take a few months to do it properly.
Like you can start there. You can start over the next 7 days, just
Yeah,
doing the
yeah.
research to help you kind of get from a state of to okay, that's not like I think something that helped me a lot was playing around and figuring out what my brand is not. Like that really, really helped in the beginning. Is knowing like I'm not gonna be that person. I'm not that person. I'm not like super all over the place, full of energy. Um, and the more like I excluded the things I'm not, the more I kind of zeroed in on like this is who I am to the point where like I now have a brand statement and like I can tell someone in one sentence, like this is exactly what I do, this is my niche. And if they kind of push back on that and they try to put me in a box, like I can say, no, that's not my box. Like this is the little thing that I play in. Um, and this is why. So the more you kind of like, even if it starts with just saying it's not that, then at least you've made one step closer. You've gotten one step closer to figuring out like what it is. And that you can do in 7 days.
Yeah, figuring out why is very important.
Yeah.
Figuring out your why, that's key. That is key. Like in anything, why are you doing what you're doing?
Why are you
Answer
doing what you're doing?
me.
Yes.
I've got 5 kids. I want to leave a legacy for them.
That's a big reason.
Simple as that. Everything I do is for them. And also, it's very important that I do what I love and I love what I do.
Mm. Why is that important to you?
Because I've deviated from that previously, where I was involved in business. So my main driver at that time was making money. And it reaches a point where you're not living within your passion, that it's soul destroying. Well, once you'll get like an aha moment, like you'll be standing in front of a stage, I don't know, whatever, like in front of 500 people receiving an award, right? But then your heart will be like, hold on, but this is not what you're meant to be doing. You're just doing this to go buy a new Range Rover, or to go and buy a new watch, or to go and buy a bigger house, or some materialistic rubbish.
There's a
Right?
disconnect.
Of course there is. Of course there is. And that's why I dropped that and I went back to doing what I do and being a creative.
And make it a great thing.
Without people follow dreams. Find out what you do. I'm quite fortunate because I've always known what I wanted to do. And it was always within the creative space, always. Like my favorite subject secondary school was art and design. I went to college for art and design. I went to university for art and design. I got jobs in art and design, built businesses in art and design. And then there was that blip of like, no, money. But now I've been able to use those skills and transfer those skills I learned within sales, within public speaking, with all these other things, and use them within what I do today. That's key as well. Is being and being able to, no matter what it is, and even if you've never had a job and you're a parent, there's skills within parenting that can make you successful in business. You just need to know how to draw them out, recognize them, and take them out to the world. And go, yeah.
Take them out to the world. And with that, Giovanni, was a pleasure having you here in the right space. And thank you so much um, yeah, for coming, um, for sharing a bit about like your backstory and your own journey of finding like the space that you're in right now and becoming like being your own authentic self in your brand. Um, so yeah, thank you very much. And to all of you, thank you for listening. Where can people find you? I always forget to ask that. Where can people find you?
Oh, me?
Yes.
Instagram.